The AfterBuzz. How's everybody doing on this fine Wednesday? Yes, we are back to Wednesdays, regularly scheduled time for the AfterBuzz. I hope your Wednesday is treating you well. Got a bunch of different topics that we're going to cover today, including the Queen show that I went to last weekend, my high school's 20-year reunion, Louis C.K. and healthcare bills and all of that fun stuff. But by all means, if you are watching this live on YouTube and you'd like to get involved in the chat, you are more than welcome to do that. You can post questions, comments, whatever you want. I try to keep up with it as much as possible. If you are tuning into this after the fact on YouTube, or if you're tuning into it as a podcast, you are always more than welcome to reach out to me if you got any questions or comments. Brandon.Coates, that's Coates, at townsquaremedia.com. Or you can also reach out to me on the Buzz Adams Show Facebook page if you would like. So I was going over my notes for this week's AfterBuzz, and a lot of it seemed to be really heavy topics because a lot of it had to seem to do with things that we were discussing on the show. And one of those topics, I think we were covering last week, had to do with that girl who went on the mass Tinder date and basically said, if you're under 5'10", you can go ahead and get out of here. And then we started to pose the question of, is that acceptable or is it not? Is it body shaming? Is it all these different things? And it's that there's certain people find certain traits attractive and unattractive. There's people who like heavyset women. There's people who like super thin women. There's people who like super fit women. It's the whole spectrum, all different colors, everything. That's like, hopefully, you're one of those people that acknowledges that love knows no boundaries. It doesn't really matter. But there are certain things that, you may or may not find more attractive than other traits. And the topic was posed about whether or not excluding a specific race was okay. And a lot of the people who were saying that this was okay were like, oh, well, it's no different than saying that somebody under 5'10" needs to get out of there. Well, it's a little bit different because that physical trait is actually something that, when somebody's considering, if you're under 5'10", maybe the woman wants somebody who she's not taller than when she's wearing high heels. Maybe she wants somebody who she's at least, at the closest eye to eye with when she's wearing high heels, if not still having to look up because she doesn't want to be taller than the guy. It's completely different to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get rid of all Asians because I don't want to date them because I don't like to make that claim is painting with a very broad brush with a race where it's not the truth because, as much as you might, oh, they all look the same. No, they don't. Like, that's the God's honest truth. And if you don't see that, then I think it tells more about you and your character than the actual reality of when it comes to dating and what are acceptable traits to go after and which ones you want to avoid. It's two completely different topics. Anyway, so, that was one quick thing I kind of wanted to talk about. And one thing I was going to talk about, but I don't think I'm going to go too far in depth on this, I just kind of want to blow by it really quick, was the dark nursery rhymes and how I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was kind of considered for a lot of these nursery rhymes, this is where they came from. This is what they meant. Oh, it was super dark. I mean, Korn came out with the song Chutes and Ladders on their debut album that was all about how dark these nursery rhymes are. But then come to find out, you don't really know where some of these nursery rhymes came from. So it's pretty hard to tell exactly what the origin is. Is London Bridge about the actual bridge falling? Is London Bridge about them sacrificing children and putting them in the foundation of the bridge so that the ghosts of the children will watch over the bridge? Ring Around the Rosie, is it about the Black Plague and all these other things? And it's not really known per se to what started some of these nursery rhymes. And that was something I think that we kind of found fascinating on the air when we were talking about it. Was for a while there, people felt they knew, okay, this is where this thing started. But then with the internet, you're able to do a lot more research a lot faster. Granted, you got to be a lot more careful because there's a whole lot of misinformation out there. But then you can look and be like, okay, maybe we don't know where this came from, or maybe we don't know that it was this story that led to this happening, or whatever the case may be. But that was really all I wanted to get to on that, was the dark nursery rhymes. But if you have anything about dark nursery rhymes that fascinates me, by all means, send it to me. Brandon.Coates at townsquaremedia.com. Because I love reading up on stuff like that. Like I ended up right down that rabbit hole. So let's go to a little bit lighter of a topic now. Went to the Queen show this past weekend on Saturday, and it was awesome. When I was a kid, I listened to Queen all the time. I think I was probably about 2 years old. I had figured out how to hit play on our cassette deck, and it was always like there was a Queen tape that was in there, and another one bites the dust. That was my jam. And what I would do is I would go put play, and I think I wasn't even tall enough to hit it. I had this truck that was maybe about a foot and a half, 2 feet tall, and I would wheel it over to the stereo, and I'd climb up onto the truck, and I would hit the play button. Another one bites the dust would kick in, and then I would just go, kind of crawl over to the center of the living room and just bounce up and down. My chubby little 2-year-old self. I was a fat kid, by the way. Like I was chunky, like as a baby. It didn't last for very long, but yeah, I was a chunky ass baby. But that show was so good. If you ever get to see the music of Queen with whatever symphony is in your town, oh my God, go do it. Brody Dolinek, the guy who's performing the songs, was amazing. That dude is a true showman. He's not just up there singing the songs. He's talking to the crowd. He's getting the crowd into it. Like it was such a good show on all aspects of it. The symphony did an amazing job. The band, from the bass player, guitar player, the guitar player was sick, by the way. Piano player, all of them was absolutely amazing. It was a fantastic show. They did about 2 full hours of music. There was a 10-minute intermission in between. Ivan saying in the chat he likes bicycle races. They didn't play that song. They did not play Bicycle. But they did play the vast majority of all the hits. Then they wrapped up with Bohemian Rhapsody into We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. And it was great too, because at the very beginning, Brody's up on stage and he makes a comment about how, at these shows, a lot of people get dancing and they're bopping around. And, if you want to, by all means, have at it. Dance as much as you want. He goes, and this is one of those songs that generally gets people moving. And then all of a sudden he goes to the bass player and you get the dum 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 right into and the whole crowd goes crazy. People are up dancing around, and it was such a great time. This Queen show was awesome. So I can't recommend it enough. I can't wait for more of those things to come to town. As we were leaving the theater, we'd had who was it? Some people around us were talking about the Led Zeppelin one that was in town. I'm like, son of a bitch, how did I miss the Led Zeppelin one? So I'm definitely going to be looking out for more of these. So if you get to check out any of these shows with the symphony performing, it's super cool. Like I cannot recommend it enough. Another thing I wanted to kind of talk about, I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about in regards to this, other than the fact that my high school just had its 20-year reunion this past weekend, I think it was. And it was funny because there's a Facebook page for our high school graduating class in '98, and they had all these plans, but I guess they didn't sell enough tickets, and it was kind of a problem. So they kind of just went to this local sports bar where they still had like this big party. And God, it's so weird, especially for me, because after high school, I kept in touch with some of my close friends for a few years, but then after that, I kind of we lost touch. I gained a different group of friends post high school. No, those are the group of friends that I've been friends with now for damn near 20 years. And we still keep in touch. One of those guys, he's going to be in my wedding coming up. Although one of the kids I went to high school with, he's going to be in my wedding as well. But it was after that. It was after probably 2003, 2004. I moved away. And I lived in Florida for 8 years. I moved back to Portland for a couple, and now I've been here in El Paso for another 3. And it's really weird because I haven't been around or been in Portland to even really run into a lot of these people. Now, I would occasionally run into somebody when I would be visiting in Portland, or I would try to meet up with some friends, like somebody who I hadn't seen for a while. I remember when I first moved back to Portland back in 2012 or 13 or whatever it was. When I first moved back to Portland, a couple of buddies and I, and this is what made Facebook so great, was the fact that we were able to keep in touch. And then we met up, and we just went and had a couple of drinks, and it was great. And that's how me and the one guy, we got reconnected. He was the one. If anybody knows this about me, my nickname is Goat. It was the name I went on the radio by for years. It's the one that I use for Loudwire Nights still. It's why I've got the tattoo on my forearm. And he was the one who gave me the nickname back in high school, and it was in our photography class. And he's going to be in my wedding. And the way that we hooked back up was through Facebook. It was probably 8 years ago or so. We just started chatting again. He's a fan of all the same teams as me. He's a Patriots fan. He's a Blazers fan. He's a Ducks fan. So we text all the time back and forth. And he's probably the one friend that I keep in contact with the most, where we're talking about that stuff constantly. Kind of giving updates on the families and things like that. And so he's gonna come be in my wedding. He didn't make it to the 20-year reunion either, but I think he just had a kid, so they weren't gonna be able to really make it out there anyway. But yeah, it's so weird seeing the pictures of what everybody looks like now post high school, and even there's some people where you're looking at them, you're like, okay, now I gotta try and read their name tag, 'cause I don't know who the hell this person is. And by the way, I'm going to apologize if I sneeze, which I've been fighting off a sneeze now for about 5 minutes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that's what's kind of going on. I've been battling this goddamn cold now since about Sunday. I went to the Queen show with the kid and the stepdad, or the father-in-law, on Saturday, because the fiance, she went and had her bachelorette party on Saturday night. So she went out with the ladies. They went and had a good time. Of course, it's a bachelorette party, so she did a little drinking. And I think there was just some kind of bug going around and not getting a ton of sleep that night. And I think the alcohol and stuff had weakened her immune system. And man, that thing hit her hard on Sunday. And she started feeling like crap on Sunday. She went to the doctor on Monday. And I've been taking Zicam, emergency, like all these things to prevent whatever the hell this is from taking me over. And it's like, if this is full-blown sick right here, we're talking levels, and just below that we have where you're starting to feel the symptoms of being sick. I've been hovering around that line now since Monday, and it's almost like I would rather spend one full day being sick than 3 full days of almost being sick. And I'm still just like I still feel like I got to sneeze, and it sucks. Green Egg says, haven't met stepdad. Oh, I'm imagining you meant stepdad as in like the kid's dad. Yeah, we see him every week when he picks her up. What I meant was father-in-law, my fiance's dad. He went to the Queen show. He's a classic rocker. So he enjoyed the Queen show. Ivan says, so she can have a bachelorette party, but you're not having a bachelor party. It doesn't have anything to do with like allowing her to have a bachelorette party or me not being allowed to have a bachelor party. I just have never had a desire to have one, and she wanted to go out and have a night with the ladies. So I was like, by all means, go do it. So, it was a bachelorette party. She wore a white dress. All the other ladies wore black dresses, and they went out to the bars and went dancing at the gay clubs and stuff. By all means, sweetheart, go do it. Go have fun. I'm glad she had an absolute blast. But it has nothing to do with being allowed to do it or not. I personally don't see the point in them. I tend to find that the people who really pushy about bachelor parties are the people who need an escape in their life, and I don't really need that. I know that there was some talk of me potentially doing like a golf outing with some of the guys. I can't swing a club right now, though. I'm still trying to go get my MRI done on my left shoulder to find out what's wrong with it. I mean, I've been able to go back to the gym, but it still sucks because it hurts constantly. But I can't swing a club, so the golf thing's out of the question. And, I'd mentioned to the guys at Military Gamer Supply, maybe floating the idea by Glitch of, if you guys want to, we can go do like an all-night gaming session. We'll call that Brandon Bachelor Party if you want. When really it'll just be, big group of people just hanging out, playing games, and having fun. Like if we were going to do something, then by all means, let's, we could do that. But I have no desire to do like, a strip club, whatever bachelor party that a lot of guys do. I've been a part of those ones. It's fine if you're the bachelor. And the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm watching the dude's going to get married, I'm like, I'd never do that. Like that's asking for trouble. Like why? I mean, that was really the biggest question the whole time is like, how shitty do you think married life is going to be that you got to cut this loose for this one final night? Married life ain't going to be that shitty for me. I'm sorry to break it to everybody who's like obsessed with me having a bachelor party. It's not going to be. I'm a pretty happy dude with my fiance and the kid and the life that I have, that I don't need to go do something like that for a bachelor party. It just seems pointless to me. I don't get it. So anyway, so reeling it back into kind of some of the other topics that we had here. But if you want to keep talking about the bachelor party, by all means, jump into the YouTube chat if you're watching this live on YouTube, and do so. But yeah, the only thing I'd really talked about was military gamer supply and glitch, and potentially doing something out there, and like maybe starting at one location and then going to the other for a few hours apiece or something like that, and just join an evening of playing games and stuff. Like that would probably be my limit. Because I think I've said this before on the AfterBuzz, is that when it comes to like bachelor parties, like I was part of those ones where you go to strip clubs and stuff, but for the most part, like my close group of friends, the ones that that are coming into town from Portland for my wedding, like we would go camping. It was always a thing where we would drive out on a Friday. The guys would spend Friday night camping. The women would stay in town on Friday night and do like a ladies' night, where they would, generally I think they would stay in. I don't think they ever really went out. I mean, they might have. I don't know. But we would go out Friday, and then on Saturday the girls would drive out camping, and everybody would kind of hang out together. And that was the bachelor party for majority of my guy friends. But anyway, so yeah, if you want to bring it up, by all means, go right ahead. I've kind of floated the idea out there. The timeline is going to be kind of time crunched because we've got a whole bunch of other things that we're still planning for the wedding, and it's really not a top priority for me at this point. So if it happens, cool. If not, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be heartbroken that I don't get a bachelor party. Next topic was Louis C.K. recently did, I think it was about 15 minutes of stand-up. It's the first time he's done anything since kind of the Me Too movement. And it's interesting to me. Like, first of all, I gotta say this: fuck Kathy Griffin. That bitch. She's so upset that she got blackballed. That people were upset because she took a photo of like a fake dead Donald Trump head that had been severed, and now she wants to piss and moan anytime somebody like comes back from something because she hasn't had the ability to come back from something. Fucking grow up. If you were funnier, it might not be the case. You might have been able to come back. But the problem with Kathy Griffin, she wasn't funny to begin with. I never understood her shtick. She's now just coming off as butthurt. Shut up, go away, and leave everybody else alone. Like, it's like she is beyond obnoxious at this point because she's just a brat, is all she is. Anyway, to the Louis C.K. topic, because she was the one who was all, I guess this is how quickly we move on now, and it must be nice to be in the white guys club or the white men's club or whatever the fuck she called it. And it's like, all right, just shut up, Kathy Griffin, and let's look at this for what it is. There is no way, shape, or form that you can lump Louis C.K., Aziz Ansari, in the same category as guys like Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby. You can't do it. There's a spectrum here. And this is where I think a lot of people have difficulty with this, because you don't want to come off as crass. You don't want to come off as victim blaming. You don't want to come off as anything other than just being empathetic and sympathetic to the victims, because that's all anybody should ever want. If that's what you don't want, you're a fuckhead, and you need to have something done to you. But that should be everybody's intentions, is that you should always have sympathy and empathy for the victims of any situation. You should also think that if somebody has done something wrong, that there should be some sort of penance to pay. Like there should be some sort of punishment. And that's going to vary, because depending on the situation, there's people who they do things that they know are wrong, but they still do them. There are other times where some people just may not be aware of what they're doing or how uncomfortable they're making somebody else by their actions. And I think that that's the category that Louis C.K. is in. I don't think he understood the magnitude of what he might have been doing. I don't think he was doing it maliciously. Whereas if you look at a guy like Bill Cosby, who's actively drugging women, those are two completely different things. Like, you can't put those into the same category. Harvey Weinstein standing in a doorway, preventing a woman from getting out. That is completely different. And we got a tweet today from somebody who was claiming that, oh, everything that I've heard is that he did this without consent. I haven't read that anywhere. I read it in a headline that that person posted on Twitter, but in the article, it doesn't say that anywhere. It doesn't acknowledge consent anywhere in there. It says that he asked them, and then he did it. Now, is there a problem with that? Is it creepy? Yeah, like it's weird. Like it makes me uncomfortable thinking about it. I mean, it's like just it's super awkward and it's super weird, but it's not the same category as Weinstein or Cosby. And that's the problem where a lot of people have with this is that they don't have that ability. And maybe it's not that ability. It's maybe that they just don't want to because it's easier for them to lump it all as one and then forget about it. But the problem with that is that if you forget about it, then a person who may be wrongfully accused of something, or somebody like Louis C.K. who, yeah, okay, this was kind of creepy, dude. You shouldn't have done this, but you shouldn't lose your career over it. Like, and that's kind of, I guess, what I'm trying to get at here is that we need to be able to look at everything on a case by case basis, and that's just the simple truth of it. And a lot of people don't want to do that. And there are a lot of people out there who will even claim, well, I'm looking at it on a case by case basis, but this was still like it made these women feel awkward, and but they still use the same arguments that they use for Bill Cosby and they use for Harvey Weinstein. That's not looking at it on a case by case basis. That's utilizing something horrific that happened with these two just complete dirtbag human beings and using that to make an argument that this other person is a dirtbag when it may not be the case. Now, is it creepy? Absolutely. Like, still, we talked about this on the air before it became the news, where before he kind of got, banished for a while there because we have comedians that come in and it got talked about a lot. This was a weird thing. And at the time it was a quirk that Louis C.K. had. Oh, crap. I got to sneeze. Right mid-rant, too. Oh, this cold sucks. And see, now I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, it was a quirk that Louis C.K. had, and that's really what it was looked at. And I'm not saying that he was right. I'm not saying that he should go back to just being the pinnacle of comedy that he was before. I'm not saying that. I don't want the victims, if they feel that have been victimized by him, to for in any way think that there is no sympathy or empathy for their situation. That's not the case. But you have to be willing to see all sides of something, and you have to be willing to, like, you can't just banish somebody and immediately go side with somebody because a complaint was filed. Like, you can't do that. And that was something that Slash recently said, is how he believes the Me Too movement, it's necessary. He believes that it's actually long overdue. And I think the vast majority of people at this point believe that the Me Too movement has been long overdue. It's been far too long that women have had to deal with fucking cretins like Harvey Weinstein. But on the flip side, there's the negative aspect of this is if a woman comes out and she makes a claim that's erroneous, it's not real, like that marks on that guy forever. But you can also look at the flip side of that and be like, okay, well, like when the guys, do this to women, like they have to deal with it forever, no matter what magnitude they may have done it. And that's why this is such it's just a difficult topic to tackle because there are so many different aspects of it. But we limit ourselves by not opening up the discussion to other solutions to, well, he did this, he needs to lose his career, or she did this, she needs to lose her career, whatever it may be. We lose common discourse when we do that. We lose the ability to communicate about complex topics when we oversimplify them by creating a punishment that's either too harsh or too little for whatever the action may have been. And that's something I think that especially in Louis C.K.'s case, we really need to look at here. And, have I given much thought to him coming back yet? No. Because I've been thinking about this, and it takes a while to wrap your brain around it. You want your brain to easily say, this is what should happen. It needs to be quick. It needs to be fast because you don't want to make a mistake. Because if you say something wrong, now you're fucked. Now you're the person, especially us on the air. If we say something wrong on the air, like if somebody does something, we back that person, and then it comes out like, oh, that person was a creep. You're that asshole that backed that creep. Even if you come out and say, look, I may have not known that information at that time, it's really fucking touchy. And the problem is with how um, quick media moves today and social media and how quick people are to react to things, I think that's prevented us from being able to stop and think. And that's what needs to start happening again, is we need to realize, stop, think, and assess a goddamn situation. Don't always blurt out with your gut. For God's sakes, get the fuck off Twitter. You don't need to immediately react to everything. Just stop for 2 seconds and just and realize what's going on and look at an entire situation. I mean, that's really the big thing. The Ghost is saying, look what happened like with Chris Hardwick. It's the exact same thing. This letter came out that was penned to this guy that this girl didn't specifically put out there by name. But when they put 2 and 2 together, you knew it was Chris Hardwick. He got yanked from all his shows. But did he do anything wrong? Come to find out, doesn't look like it. Because he had a whole lot of people coming to his defense, saying that no, this didn't happen. I knew them as a couple. There was text messages that he released after that said, look, why does she keep trying to get in touch with me? And he's not responding. And that's why we got to be really careful, with how we react to things and how quickly. And we just need to pump the brakes a little bit and realize that, hey, taking some thought and time to come to a conclusion might be a good action at this point. Anyway, so all right, next topic. This will be the final topic for today, unless you got anything else you guys want to bring up in the YouTube chat if you're watching this live. So I wanted to talk about healthcare bills, and there was that guy who got that $109,000 bill because of a heart attack. And then the hospital got back to him and said, oh, with some discounts, we were able to get it down to like $700. Fuck you. I am so sick and tired of dealing with this medical crap. The United States healthcare system is arguably one of the biggest plagues that we have out there right now. It is an absolute disaster. I mentioned this on the air today. My fiance just got a medical bill, where there's a whole bunch of different things from a doctor. One of them is from 2015. Not once in that 3-year span has there been a letter, has then there been a bill sent. Nothing in 3 years at all. But now they send it, and then we're just supposed to blankly go pay a check. But here's the deal. We can't do that. I'm not going to fucking do that. I'm going to call them up and figure out what the fuck is going on. Why are you trying to take our money when you can't get your shit together? If there was a bill that was due, and we hadn't paid it for 3 months or for 3 years, you don't think they'd be banging on our fucking door? You don't think they'd be coming after us with collection agencies? But it's okay for them to wait 3 years to present the bill to us? Fuck you. That is complete garbage. So you're goddamn right. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to stop by the office on my way home from work, and I'm going to ask them about this. And I want to ask them, why is it there's a bill here from 2015 that we've heard nothing about for 3 years? How is that possible? And you know what? And by all means, next AfterBuzz, I'm going to tell you what the hell happens. Because you know what might be interesting? Maybe we're not being charged for that thing in 2015. Maybe that's just on there erroneously. I don't know. But it's irritating that at this point we've gone so far down the path of just, oh, well, a bill came in, now I just got to pay it, that they're taking advantage of you. Full blown. Insurance companies, hospitals, everybody, they're just bending you over and they're giving it to you raw. And that's what is really irritating about this, is you would kind of hope that common decency would start to kick in on people. That's not the case. At least it hasn't happened yet. But you would hope that with these kind of stories where this guy gets a $109,000 bill, down to $700 because of the discounts the hospital was able to offer him after they gave him that bill. Because here's the thing, you don't pay that, it's going to fuck up your credit. That's another thing, that this whole system is so turned around and with its head up its own ass that it's time for some people to start to stand up and be like, you know what, this needs to fucking change. Like, I'm tired of dealing with this. When I go to a hospital, I want to be able to know how much I'm going to pay. There should be an ambulance company in El Paso that takes our insurance. That's how Buzz got hosed. They put him in an ambulance that he didn't even want to get into, but they made him do it. And guess what? He had to take the bill because our insurance company doesn't have a contract with an ambulance company here in El Paso. How fucked is that? So I don't have a solution to this, obviously. I'm just kind of ranting and raving right now at this point because I'm pretty pissed off at the healthcare industry because it sucks at this point. Like, it's pretty ridiculous that the insurance companies are willing to do what they're doing and the hospitals and the medical care are willing to do what they're doing. And I will give an update hopefully next Wednesday. Hopefully I have an update by next Wednesday as to what the hell's gone on with this whole fiasco with these bills that we've gotten in. But it's mind-boggling to me. And if you guys have ever had any of these situations pop up, by all means, share them with us. Share them with us on the air. You can call the NEC line. That number is 844-805 NEC. That's 6325. Or you can email me, brandon.coates. It's COATES at townsquaremedia.com. As I sniffle my way here through the end of this AfterBuzz, let me just double check the YouTube chat here. Vicky's saying he's still getting bills from doctors. Haven't even went to. Apparently, they attended me at the hospital. I've heard about that too. That you like they just like when you were in the hospital, they stopped by and you get the bill for them. Ivan's saying that has anybody gotten a parking ticket from way back in the day, and apparently he did. But yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of the end all be all. And I told you it was really heavy handed. I got to start lightening things up. Like it's just becoming a bitch session for me, and I don't know if that's really entertaining for you guys to sit and listen to. It's just me sit there and talk about these really heavy handed issues like, you know, Louis C.K., the Me Too movement, and healthcare bills. But by all means, if there's any goofy topics you want me to bring up, fire away with them. David's asking, what about the +1? I need you to be more specific about what +1 you're talking about. Now, I did make the big announcement today that Buzz will be getting a +1 at my wedding because we've actually because we have started to get the majority of the RSVPs in, and the venue, it was right around 250 people was the max. We had sent out, I think, 290 invites. Actually, it might have been over 300. So that's why at the time I kept I wasn't going to give a +1 because I didn't know, because we were already over the capacity for the venue just on invites alone. So that's when I was like, okay, we can't do it. Of course, Buzz had to make it about himself. He had to get all butthurt about it, oh, it's my girlfriend, and yada yada yada. But you know, that it wasn't the case. It had nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with his girlfriend. It has nothing to do with any of that, other than the fact that the capacity for the venue was this, and we were over it by a good 40 to 50 people. And then as we got the RSVPs in last night, we started to look at it. We started to do a full-on count of the amount of people that have confirmed that they're showing up, the amount of people that have said no, and the few people out there who have not said anything. And yeah, which by the way, you know, Brad, our boss, he still hasn't confirmed if he's coming or not. I'm gonna go find him in the hallway. Anyway, and then we realized, okay, look, we're actually going to be under the capacity, so we can start inviting some other people. There's more people in this building that I want to invite. I haven't been able to. I mean, truly, here in the office, it wasn't a ton of people that got invites. The show got invites. You know, Kevin got an invite, but that's, you know, Kevin's in the wedding. You know, I think Kaplowitz I gave an invite, and then some of the, you know, upper management that I talk to pretty regularly, they all get invites. But there's a whole lot of people that I would love to have at the wedding. There's just not the capacity for them. But there were a few that I was able to give some invites to today after, you know, we realized that we're going to have some extra space here coming up at the wedding. So on that note, we'll wrap up this AfterBuzz. I appreciate you guys being here. You know, as always, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can always check it out live on YouTube. It's the KLAQ YouTube channel. It airs 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time on Wednesdays. And sorry, I'm just catching up on the YouTube chat and everybody talking about weddings and stuff like that. Yeah, it's gonna be a big ass wedding. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, really quick, right before we wrap up, like, because Joanna, she had a question for me today. I was sitting in Buzz's studio. The show was over, and they came in and her and Lisa and Emily were laughing, and they were like, "Joanna's got a question for you," and I can't remember exactly how they presented it, but and like one of them was like, "No, you can't ask him that." I'm like, "Ask me what? I really don't care." Like, I'm so tired of all these like wedding rules and laws and all these things. Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this. I don't care. Like, here's the God's honest truth. Like, there's people in this building that I wish I could invite. There's just probably not going to be space for them. That sucks. There's people back in Portland that I would have liked to invite. There's not going to be space. There's people my fiance has still wanted to invite, but there's not space. When it comes to who's getting invited to the dinner, who's getting invited to the reception, fucking A, it all comes down to money. That's the God's honest truth. Like, it all comes down to money and what we can afford. And this is what Joanna was talking about. Was her question was, is it going to be an open bar or not? And that's why I think both Lisa and Emily were actually like, no, you can't ask me that. I'm like, no, you can. You can absolutely ask me that. Like, I have no problems answering that question, because the venue, there's a minimum amount of money that we need to spend with the catering service. And that's a mixture of the dinners and the alcohol. So what we're trying to do is we've invited X amount of people for the dinner, and we want to have some left over so that we can buy some alcohol for the guests, whether that's a couple of kegs, whether that's some wine, whether that's hard alcohol, whatever it may be. But to answer her question, it will probably be a mixture of both, because if everybody drinks the way that we think they're going to drink, and the amount of people that we think are going to show up, it's going to run out of booze that we've paid for, and by all means, then you're going to need your own cash to get your own drinks. But on that note, I bid you all adieu. Happy Wednesday, and we'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. Peace out.